The kitchen clock read 5:15 p.m. When I saw the silver sedan fishtail into the gravel lot at Meridian Lake. I was on my porch with a glass of sweet tea, 62 years old and bone-tired from another sleepless night. The heat pressed down like a wet wool blanket. Through the oak trees, I watched the car door fly open. Cynthia stepped out, my daughter-in-law, 30 years old and wearing sunglasses despite the cloud cover. She moved to the trunk, popped it, pulled out a brown leather suitcase, the expensive kind Louis used to take on business trips before the accident. My son, my Louis, dead 3 months now. Brake failure on Highway 49. His truck went straight into a concrete pylon at 60 miles per hour. Cynthia dragged the suitcase to the water's edge. She looked left, then right. The lake was empty. Sunday evening, most folks at supper. She swung the suitcase back once, twice. On the third swing she let go. It arced high and hit the water with a muffled thump. Not a splash. A thump, like something heavy wrapped in cloth. The suitcase floated for maybe 3 seconds. Then it started sinking, slow and deliberate, brown leather, turning black as the water soaked through. Cynthia stood there watching. Then she turned and walked back to her car. The engine started, gravel sprayed. I was already running. My sandals slapped against the wooden porch steps. The tea glass shattered on the third step, but I didn't stop. My hip screamed arthritis that had been getting worse since Louis died, but I pushed through the pain. The lake path was 50 yards through brush and pine needles. Branches whipped my arm. I could hear Cynthia's car pulling away, tires squealing on asphalt. The water was dark. The suitcase was maybe 15 feet out, already 3 feet under. I could see its pale brown shape descending through the murky green. I kicked off my sandals and waded in. The bottom was all mud and broken shells. Each step forward, my feet sank 6 inches. The water reached my thighs, then my waist. Cold, despite the heat. Meridian Lake is spring-fed, stays 58 degrees year-round. I dove. The cold shocked my chest. Everything went dark green and silent. I kicked hard, my sundress billowing around my hips like a parachute. The suitcase was still sinking, slower now, maybe 8 feet down. My fingers brushed the handle, missed, kicked again, grabbed, got it. The weight surprised me. Not empty, full of something solid and shifting. I pulled it against my chest and kicked for the surface. My lungs burned. The suitcase dragged at my arms. For a second, I thought I'd have to let go, choose between breathing and whatever was inside. Then my head broke the surface. I gasped, pulled in air that tasted like pine and algae, kicked toward shore. The suitcase clutched against me like a child. My knees hit mud. I crawled forward, dragging the case through the shallows. Water streamed from my hair, my dress, my nose. I collapsed on the bank and pulled the suitcase onto the grass. The zipper was swollen with water. I dug my thumbnail into the pull and yanked. It stuck. I yanked again. The teeth separated with a grinding sound that made my jaw ache. I pulled the suitcase open. A towel, blue and white striped, soaked through. And underneath, wrapped in the towel, something small and pale, and a baby, a newborn, maybe days old, eyes closed, skin with a blue-gray tint that made my stomach drop. "No," I said. My voice came out like gravel. I pulled the baby out. A boy, umbilical stump still fresh. He was cold, so cold, his tiny chest barely moving. I turned him over, pressed my cheek close to his mouth, felt a whisper of breath, shallow, slow. Then I saw it tucked in the corner of the suitcase under the wet liner. A small brass key on a beaded chain, taped to the fabric with waterproof tape. And beside it, folded tight in a plastic bag, a single sheet of paper. Through the plastic I could make out a notary seal and Louis's signature. I shoved them both in the pocket of my dress. Then I pulled my phone from my other pocket, thank God for waterproof cases, and dialed 911. "What's your emergency?" "I found a baby in the lake." My voice shook. "He's breathing but barely. He's so cold." "Where are you located?" "Meridian Lake, the north access point off County Road 6. "Please hurry." "Is the baby breathing on his own?" "Yes, barely. His lips are blue." "How old is the baby?" "Newborn. Maybe 2 or 3 days." "Okay, listen carefully. Keep him as warm and dry as possible. Do you have any dry clothing or towels?" I looked down at my soaked dress. "I'm wet." I pulled him out of the water. "Is there a car nearby?" "A building." "My house, 50 yards up the path. Can you get there safely while carrying the baby?" I looked at the tiny boy in my arms. His chest rose and fell like a bird's. Yes. Go now. Wrap him in anything dry and warm. Keep him against your skin. Don't try CPR unless he stops breathing. Ambulance is 6 minutes out. I stood. My legs trembled. The baby weighed maybe 7 pounds, but felt like nothing. Like if I let go, he'd float away. I walked up the path as fast as I could without jostling him. My hips screamed with each step. Inside the house, I grabbed a stack of clean dish towels from the counter and wrapped him in layer after layer, held him against my chest. I could feel his heart beating through the thin cage of his ribs, fast and thready. Stay with me, I whispered. Please stay with me. The ambulance arrived in 4 minutes. 2 paramedics, a man and a woman, both young. They took the baby from my arms and placed him on a small padded board, oxygen mask, warming blankets, for in his tiny hand. When did you find him? The woman asked. 10 minutes ago. In a suitcase, in the lake. They looked at each other. Ma'am, did you see who put him there? My daughter, no, Cynthia Monroe. She threw the suitcase in the water and drove away. The woman nodded once. We're taking him to County General. They have a level 3 NICU. You should follow us. Can I ride with you? Are you injured? No. Then please follow in your own vehicle. We need the space for treatment. They were gone in 30 seconds. Lights flashing, siren wailing into the dusk. I stood in my driveway, soaking wet, and reached into my pocket, pulled out the brass key and the folded paper in its plastic sleeve. The key had a number stamped on it, 447. Below that, in tiny letters, First Southern Bank. The paper I left folded. I knew what it was. I'd seen Lewis sign it 2 weeks before he died, an addendum to his will. County General was 23 miles. I drove in my wet dress, heater blasting even though it was 80 degrees outside. I couldn't stop shaking. The ER entrance was crowded. Sunday evening rush. People with broken fingers and stomach pains. I walked past them to the desk. A baby came in, I said. Ambulance from Meridian Lake. Where is he? The clerk, a young man with tired eyes, checked his screen. Nick, 3rd floor. Are you family? I'm his grandmother. I'll need to verify that before I pulled him out of a lake 40 minutes ago. I'm going to see him now. Something in my voice made him pause. Then he printed a visitor sticker and pointed to the elevator. The NICU was all glass walls and dim lighting. A nurse stopped me at the door, tall black woman with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes. Her badge read Eloise Carter RN. You're the grandmother? She asked. Yes. Betty Monroe. How is he? Alive. That's what matters right now. Come with me. She led me through automatic doors into a long room filled with clear plastic incubators. The beeping was constant monitors tracking oxygen, heart rate, temperature. The baby was in the 3rd incubator from the left. He was naked except for a diaper and sensor wires. A heat lamp glowed orange above him. His skin had gone from blue-gray to pink-gray. Better, but not good. Severe hypothermia, Eloise said. Core temp was 89 degrees when he arrived. Normal is 98.6. We're using gradual rewarming. Too fast can cause cardiac arrest. He also has fluid in his lungs, possible aspiration of lake water. We're monitoring for infection. Is he going to make it? He's fighting. That's a good sign. But the next 48 hours are critical. I reached through the porthole and touched his hand. His fingers curled around my thumb. Weak, but there. Has anyone contacted the police? I asked. Detective is on her way. Should be here any minute. I pulled the key and the paper from my pocket and set them on the counter beside the incubator. These were in the suitcase with him. Eloise looked at them, then at me. Don't touch those again. That's evidence. I know. We stood there in silence, watching the baby breathe. The monitor showed his heart rate at 164 beats per minute. Too fast, but steady. Footsteps behind us. I turned. A woman in a gray pantsuit walked up, badge on her belt. Latina, maybe 40, with sharp dark eyes and short hair. Detective Fatima Salazar, she said. You're Mrs. Monroe. Betty Monroe. Yes. I need your statement. Can we talk in the family room? I'm not leaving him. Detective Salazar glanced at Eloise, who nodded. We can talk here. Keep it brief. I told her everything. The silver sedan, Cynthia at the lake, the suitcase, the baby. Detective Salazar took notes on a small tablet. What time did you see Mrs. Cynthia Monroe throw the suitcase? 5:15. My kitchen clock. And you're certain it was her? I've known her for 7 years. It was her car, her walk, Her hair. Did you see her face directly? She was wearing sunglasses. What color was her hair? Dark brown. Shoulder length. Same as always. Detective Salazar made another note. Mrs. Monroe lives where 42 Oakmont Drive, 20 minutes from the lake. We'll send a unit there. In the meantime, do you know of any reason she would want to harm this child? I hesitated. Louis, my son, died 3 months ago. Car accident. Brake failure. Cynthia inherited his life insurance. $200,000. And this baby, I didn't know she was pregnant. She never told me. If this is your son's child, the insurance might be contested. The baby could have a legal claim to the estate. I looked at the tiny boy in the incubator. She tried to kill her own baby for money. We don't know that yet. Let's not jump to conclusions. I'll arrange for DNA testing. We'll need a sample from you to establish kinship. In the meantime, do not contact Mrs. Monroe. Do not go to her house. Let us handle this. Okay. I'll be in touch. She left. Eloise squeezed my shoulder. You can stay as long as you like. There's a cot in the family room if you need to rest. I'm not resting. She smiled. Didn't think so. I pulled a chair close to the incubator and sat down. The clock on the wall read 7:43 p.m. The baby's temperature had risen to 90.2 degrees. I counted every breath. At 3 a.m., the baby's temperature hit 95 degrees. The nurses reduced the heat lamp. His breathing was stronger. The blue tint had faded from his lips. Eloise brought me coffee and a hospital blanket. You should eat something. I'm not hungry. You're shaking. When's the last time you had food? I couldn't remember. Breakfast, maybe. I'm fine. You won't be any good to him if you collapse. She handed me a protein bar from her pocket. Eat. That's an order. I ate. It tasted like sawdust, but I forced it down. A young doctor came by at 4:30 a.m. Dr. Patel, pediatric intensivist. She checked the monitors and made notes on her tablet. Temperature is stabilizing. Oxygen saturation is good. We're starting antibiotics as a precaution against pneumonia. If he continues to improve, we can move him out of intensive care in 72 hours. And then what? I asked. That depends on the police investigation and Child Protective Services. I want to take care of him. Dr. Patel looked at me with tired but kind eyes. That's not my decision. But I'll note your request in the file. At 6:15 a.m., Detective Salazar returned with a DNA technician. They swabbed the inside of my cheek and the baby's cheek, 3 samples each, sealed in sterile tubes. We're running a kinship analysis. Detective Salazar said, results in 48 to 72 hours. In the meantime, we attempted to contact Mrs. Monroe at her residence. No one answered. Her car is not in the driveway. We've issued a bolaby on the lookout for her vehicle. She ran, I said. We don't know that. She may be staying with friends or family. She threw a baby in a lake and drove away. Detective Salazar closed her notepad. I'll keep you updated. At 8 a.m., a social worker arrived. Young woman, maybe 30, with red hair and freckles. Her badge read Aileen Foster, MSW Mrs. Monroe. I'm with Child Protective Services. I need to discuss placement options for the infant. He's staying with me. That's not automatic. We have protocols. First, we need to establish kinship through DNA. Second, we need to conduct a home study, verify that your residence is safe and suitable for an infant. Third, you'll need to complete background checks and a foster care orientation course. How long does that take? The DNA test, 2 to 3 days. The home study, 1 week if we expedite. The course is 40 hours, which you can complete online at your own pace. Background check is usually 5 to 7 business days. And in the meantime, where does he go? Emergency foster placement. We have several qualified families who— No, my voice was louder than I intended. The baby stirred in the incubator. I lowered my voice. I'm not letting him go to strangers. I'll do whatever you need. I'll take the course, fix up my house, and pass every background check you throw at me. But he's not going anywhere else. Aileen Foster studied me. I can't promise anything, but I'll note your commitment in the file. If the DNA confirms kinship and your home study is satisfactory, we can discuss temporary custody. Thank you. She handed me a stack of papers. Start with these forms. I'll schedule the home inspection for Friday. I looked at the forms, 20 pages. Authorization for background check, financial disclosure, medical history, emergency contacts. I started filling them out. The DNA results came back on Wednesday at 2:37 p.m. Detective Salazar called me at the hospital. Mrs. Monroe, the kinship analysis is complete. The infant shares approximately 24.8% of his DNA with you, consistent with a grandparent-grandchild relationship. My hand tightened on the phone. He's Lewis's son, yes, that's the conclusion. I'm sorry for your loss, and I'm sorry you're learning about your grandson this way. Does Cynthia know? We haven't been able to locate her. Her phone is off. Her credit cards haven't been used since Sunday. We're checking with family and known associates. What happens now? We continue the investigation. The baby is officially a victim of attempted homicide. I'll need to interview you again, and we'll need to build a timeline of Mrs. Monroe's activities before and after your son's death. I'll tell you whatever you need. I'll be there tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. She hung up. I looked through the glass at the baby, my grandson, asleep in the incubator. His skin was fully pink now. His breathing was steady. The nurses had started bottle feeding him, 4 ounces every 3 hours. I went to the bathroom and locked the door and cried for the first time since Lewis died. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the key and the paper in my pocket. I'd turned them over to Detective Salazar, but she'd let me photograph them first. The key was simple. Ross, number 447. First Southern Bank. The paper was more complex. I unfolded the photograph on my phone and read it under the bathroom light. Addendum to Last Will and Testament, Lewis James Monroe, dated January 14, 2025. This addendum modifies section for distribution of assets as follows. In the event of my death, all insurance proceeds, investment accounts, and liquid assets shall be distributed to my issue only per stirps. If no children survive me at the time of my death, said assets shall pass to my mother, Betty Ann Monroe. This addendum supersedes any prior beneficiary designations. Signed, Lewis Monroe, notarized, January 14, 2025. Witness, Anthony DeSoto. Father Anthony Lewis had signed this 6 weeks before he died. He'd never told me about it, never mentioned a baby, but he'd prepared for this. He'd known something. I called Detective Salazar. Mrs. Monroe, it's almost midnight. I need to tell you something. Lewis changed his will 6 weeks before he died. He added an addendum that left everything to his children, not to Cynthia, to his issue. Silence. Then, send me that photo. Right now. I texted it to her, waited. This changes things, she said. If he signed this in January and died in March, and the baby was born in early June based on the doctor's estimate, she was pregnant when he died. And if this will was valid, the baby inherits everything, the insurance, the investment accounts, all of it, so she had a motive. We need to verify the will's validity. I'll contact the notary and the witness. In the meantime, do you know what that key opens? Safe deposit box. First Southern Bank. Box 4-40-7. Don't go there. That's evidence. I'll get a warrant and we'll open it together. When? Tomorrow afternoon. I'll call you. Thursday morning. The home inspection. Aileen Foster arrived at 9 a.m. with a clipboard and a measuring tape. My house was small, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, built in 1978. I'd lived here for 38 years, raised Lewis here, buried my husband here, heart attack, 12 years ago. Aileen walked through every room, checked smoke detectors, tested outlets, looked in cabinets, opened the fridge. You'll need to install outlet covers, she said. All the outlets, especially in the room where the baby will sleep. And you'll need a crib that meets current safety standards, no drop sides, slats no more than 2 3/8 inches apart. You'll need a changing table, a car seat, bottles, formula, diapers. How much will that cost? $1,200 to $1,500. If you shop smart. I thought about my bank account, Social Security and Lewis's small death benefit, maybe $3,000 left after funeral costs. I'll manage. You'll also need to baby-proof the bathroom, cabinet locks, toilet locks, and gates for any stairs. I don't have stairs, then just the cabinet locks. She made notes. I'll approve the home conditionally. You have 2 weeks to make the safety modifications. Send me photos when you're done. I'll do it this weekend. She looked at me. Mrs. Monroe, I want you to understand something. Emergency foster care is meant to be temporary. If Mrs. Monroe is located and cleared of wrongdoing, she retains parental rights. If she's charged and convicted, you can petition for permanent custody or adoption. But that process can take months or years. Are you prepared for that? I'm prepared to do whatever it takes. Okay, I'll submit my report. You should hear back about temporary custody by Monday. She left. I made a list. Crib, car seat, outlet covers, cabinet locks, bottles, formula, diapers, changing pad, blankets, onesies, thermometer. Then I drove to First Southern Bank. Detective Salazar was waiting in the lobby. "I told you not to come here. It's my son's box. I have a right. Not until we clear it as evidence." A bank manager led us to the vault, a small gray room lined with metal boxes. Box 447 was in the middle row. The manager used the bank's master key and my key together. The drawer slid open. Inside, a USB drive, a manila folder, and a leather journal. Detective Salazar pulled on latex gloves and lifted each item carefully. The USB drive was labeled in Lewis's handwriting. "If anything happens." The folder contained bank statements, insurance documents, and printouts of text messages. The journal was Lewis's. I recognized the cover. I'd given it to him for Christmas 3 years ago. Detective Salazar opened the folder first. "These bank statements show a $200,000 deposit on March 26, 4 days after your son's death. That's the insurance payout. Then, on April 3rd, a wire transfer of $180,000 to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands." "Cynthia," I said, "we'll need to verify, but yes, she left $20,000 in the account, probably to avoid suspicion." "What about the text messages?" She spread them out on the table. They were screenshots from Lewis's phone, printed and dated. February 10, 2025. Text from Lewis to unknown number. "Need to talk. Something's wrong with the truck." "What kind of wrong?" "Brakes are soft. Had them checked last month. Shouldn't be a problem." February 11, 2025. Lewis too, same number. "Took it to Carlos. He says the brake line has a slow leak. Weird, asked him to replace the whole system." Detective Salazar looked up. "Who's Carlos?" "Carlos Medina. He runs the auto shop on Route 19. Lewis always took his truck there." She made a note. "We'll talk to him." She picked up the USB drive. "I'll need to view this at the station. Could be personal, could be evidence. Can I see it?" "Not yet. Once we clear it, I'll let you know." She packed everything into evidence bags. I watched her seal each one. My son's last words, locked in plastic. Friday afternoon, Detective Salazar called. "We've interviewed Carlos Medina. He confirms he replaced Lewis's brake system on February 11th. But here's the interesting part. On February 9th, 2 days before Lewis brought the truck in, Carlos received a call from a woman asking about brake line degradation. She wanted to know how long it would take for a small puncture to cause total brake failure. My stomach tightened. "Cynthia." We pulled his phone records. The call came from a burner phone, purchased at a convenience store in Hattiesburg. "We're pulling security footage now." "What about the USB drive?" I watched it. It's a video, 12 minutes long. Lewis recorded it on January 20. He talks about the pregnancy, the will addendum, and his suspicions about Cynthia. He doesn't accuse her of anything directly, but he says he's being careful. He mentions the brake issue. He says if anything happens to him, to look at the truck and the bank accounts. "Can I see it?" "I'll send you a copy. But Mrs. Monroe, you need to prepare yourself. It's hard to watch." The video arrived in my email an hour later. I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot and pressed play. Lewis appeared on screen. He was sitting in his home office, the one with the blue walls and the diplomas on the wall. He looked tired, thinner than I remembered. "Hey Mom," he said. "If you're watching this, something bad happened. I'm hoping you never have to see it, but I need to cover my bases." He rubbed his face. "Cynthia's pregnant, about 4 months along. She doesn't want anyone to know yet. Says she's waiting until the second trimester is over, but I think there's more to it. She's been weird, secretive. Last week I found a burner phone in her purse. When I asked about it, she said it was for work, keeping business calls separate. But she doesn't have that kind of job." He looked directly at the camera. "I changed my will. Everything goes to the baby if I die, not to Cynthia. I don't trust her anymore. I think she's planning something. I don't know what, but my truck's been acting strange. Brakes are soft. I had them serviced 3 weeks ago. Shouldn't be a problem." He paused. "I'm probably being paranoid. But if something happens, check the truck, check the bank accounts, and take care of my kid, please." The video ended. I sat in the car and cried until my throat was raw. Saturday, I bought the baby supplies. Walmart, Target, and a second-hand store. Crib for $200. Car seat for $90. Outlet covers, cabinet locks, bottles, formula. By the time I was done, I'd spent $1,400. My bank account had $1,800 left. I installed the crib in Lewis's old room, the same room where he'd slept as a baby, where I'd rocked him through colic and teething and nightmares. I put up the outlet covers, installed the cabinet locks, washed the bottles and blankets. Sunday morning, I went to church. Father Anthony was waiting for me at the door. "Betty," he said, "I heard about the baby. I'm so sorry. Did Lewis tell you about Cynthia? He came to me in January, asked me to witness his will addendum. He was worried. Why didn't you tell me? He asked me not to. He said he didn't want to alarm you until he had proof. He's dead. She killed him." Father Anthony put his hand on my shoulder. "Let the police do their work. In the meantime, that baby needs you. Focus on him. I'm trying. I know you are. And if you need anything at all, you call me." Monday morning, Aileen Foster called. "Mrs. Monroe, I've reviewed your home inspection photos. Everything looks good. I'm recommending temporary custody, pending the outcome of the criminal investigation. You'll have legal guardianship for up to 6 months, with monthly check-ins from our office. If Mrs. Monroe is charged and convicted, you can petition for permanent custody. Thank you. The baby will be discharged from the hospital tomorrow. Can you pick him up? I'll be there." Tuesday at 10 a.m., I signed the temporary custody papers in the hospital conference room. Aileen Foster, Detective Salazar, and Eloise Carter were all present. "You'll receive a stipend of $450 per month to cover expenses," Aileen said. "That's in addition to WIC benefits for formula. You'll need to attend all medical appointments and keep detailed records. Any concerns, you call me immediately." "I will. And Mrs. Monroe." She looked at me seriously. "If Mrs. Monroe contacts you, do not engage. Call Detective Salazar right away." "Understood." Eloise wheeled the baby out in a plastic bassinet. He was dressed in a blue onesie and wrapped in a white blanket. His eyes were open. Dark eyes, like Lewis's. "He's gained 6 ounces since admission," Eloise said. "He's feeding well. No signs of infection or complications. He's a fighter." I picked him up. He was warm and solid and real. He smelled like hospital soap and milk. "He needs a name," Eloise said. "What are you going to call him?" I'd thought about this for days. Lewis had loved history, especially ancient history. His favorite hero was Hector of Troy, the protector, the loyal son. "Hector," I said. "His name is Hector Lewis Monroe." The first week home was a blur of diapers, bottles, and sleepless nights. Hector woke every 2 hours. I'd forgotten how exhausting newborns were. My hip ached. My hands shook from lack of sleep. But every time I picked him up, every time he looked at me with those dark eyes, I felt a surge of fierce love. I kept a log like Aileen had instructed. Every feeding, every diaper, every degree of temperature. I took photos of his bath time, his tummy time. His first smile just gasped, but I counted it anyway. The costs piled up. Formula, diapers, wipes, doctor visits. The stipend helped, but it wasn't enough. I'd spent $6,240 out of pocket since February, between the funeral, the baby supplies, and ongoing expenses. My savings were gone. I started the 40-hour foster care course online. Modules on child development, safety, trauma, attachment. I did 2 hours every night after Hector fell asleep. My eyes burned. I drank coffee until my heart raced, but I finished in 3 weeks. Father Anthony visited twice a week. He brought groceries and sat with Hector while I showered or napped. He never asked questions, just helped. Detective Salazar called every few days with updates. We found the burner phone purchase on security footage. Woman matching Mrs. Monroe's description, January 30th, at a convenience store in Hattiesburg. Paid cash. We're working on facial recognition. We interviewed Mrs. Monroe's sister in Mobile. She hasn't heard from Cynthia since March. Says Cynthia told her she was moving to Atlanta for a new job. We executed a search warrant on Mrs. Monroe's house. Found a second burner phone in a shoebox in the closet. Call logs show 3 calls to Carlos Medina's shop in February, and 2 calls to a medical clinic in Jackson. The medical clinic confirms Mrs. Monroe had an ultrasound in January. She told them she was placing the baby for private adoption. Gave a fake address. Each update was another piece. Another receipt in the file. 6 weeks after I brought Hector home, my phone rang at 11:30 p.m. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Betty Cynthia's voice, cold and sharp. I sat up in bed. Where are you? That doesn't matter. I want my son. Hector is safe. He's with me. His name isn't Hector, and he's not yours. You threw him in a lake. Silence. Then, you can't prove that. The police have evidence. DNA, witness statements, phone records. They know what you did. Louis was mine. The insurance was mine. That baby has no claim. Louis changed his will. Everything goes to Hector. You get nothing. Her voice went tight. I earned that money. I put up with his boring stories and his mother's meddling for 7 years. I deserve it. You killed him. I didn't kill anyone. The brakes failed. Accidents happen. Carlos Medina told the police about your phone calls, about the questions you asked. Another silence, longer this time. You're recording this. Yes, she laughed, low and bitter. Doesn't matter. No jury will convict me. I'll say I panicked after the birth. Postpartum psychosis. I'll cry on the stand. I'll get probation and therapy, and then I'll get my son back. No, you won't. We'll see. I'll be in touch. The line went dead. My hands were shaking. I'd recorded it. The phone app was still running. Red timer counting. 3 minutes and 47 seconds. I called Detective Salazar. She just called me. I recorded it. Send it now. And tell me everything she said. I played back the conversation, my memory sharp with adrenaline. When I finished, Detective Salazar was quiet for a moment. She's feeling pressure. That's good. The fact that she reached out means she's making mistakes. Forward me that recording and don't answer if she calls again. Let it go to voicemail. We need to set a trap. What kind of trap? One where she incriminates herself on camera. Are you willing to help? I looked at Hector asleep in his bassinet beside my bed. Tell me what to do. Wednesday afternoon. Detective Salazar came to my house with a technical specialist, young Asian man named David Park, carrying a silver briefcase. We want to arrange a meeting with Mrs. Monroe. Detective Salazar said. You'll call her back. Tell her you want to discuss custody arrangements. Suggest meeting somewhere isolated. We'll wire you with audio and video. She'll be suspicious. Maybe, but she's desperate. She needs that insurance money, and the only way to get it is to either reclaim the baby or eliminate the witness. You're both. You think she tried to hurt me. I think she tried to make a deal, offer you money to disappear. And when she does, she say enough to convict herself. David opened the briefcase. Inside was a small device the size of a quarter. This is a wireless transmitter. We'll place it under your collar. Range is 1/2 mile. We'll have units positioned within 300 feet. If anything goes wrong, say the code phrase and we move in immediately. What's the code phrase? Something natural? Something you'd say in conversation? I thought about it. Lavender blanket. Louis had one when he was a baby. I could mention it. Perfect. You say lavender blanket, and we come in. Also, you'll have a panic button. David held up a small plastic device that looked like a key fob. Press this if you feel threatened. We'll be there in seconds. Where should we meet? Detective Salazar pulled out a map. Somewhere public enough that she feels safe, but isolated enough that we can set up without being obvious. What about the old boathouse at Meridian Lake? I felt my stomach turn. The lake. I know it's difficult, but it's familiar to her. She feels like she has the advantage, and we know the terrain. Okay, the boathouse. Call her. Use the number she called from. Tell her you want to meet Thursday night, 9 p.m. Tell her you'll bring documentation proving the will is valid, and you want to negotiate. What if she doesn't come? Then we wait for another opportunity, but I think she'll come. She's running out of options. That evening, I called the number. It rang 4 times. Then Cynthia's voice, wary. What? I want to talk about Hector, about the money. I'm listening. Not on the phone. In person. Silence. Where? Meridian Lake. The old boathouse. Thursday night, 9 o'clock. Why there? Because it's private, and because I want you to see where I found him. I want you to understand what you did. She laughed, short and harsh. You want to guilt me? Save it. I have documents. Copies of the will, the bank records, everything the police gave me. I'll bring them. We can figure something out. Something out. Louis is gone. Hector needs stability. Maybe we can come to an arrangement. Another silence. I could hear her breathing. Come alone, she finally said. I will. You come alone too. 9 o'clock. She hung up. Detective Salazar nodded. Good. Now we prepare. Thursday morning, David came back to fit the wire. The transmitter went under my collar, held in place with surgical tape. The panic button went in my pocket. Test phrase, David said. Lavender blanket. He checked his receiver. Loud and clear. Remember, keep her talking. Ask open-ended questions. Get her to explain her thinking. The more she says, the better. And if she gets violent, press the button. We'll be inside in 5 seconds. Detective Salazar handed me a folder. These are copies, real documents, but nothing that would compromise the case. Birth certificate for Hector. Copy of the will addendum. Bank statement showing the insurance deposit. Use them as props. Okay, Betty. She looked me in the eye. You don't have to do this. We can find another way. No, this ends tomorrow. That night, Father Anthony came to watch Hector. I'd told him I was meeting with a social worker. He didn't question it. Be safe, he said. I will. At 8:30 p.m., I drove to Meridian Lake. The sun had set. The woods were dark. Detective Salazar and her team were already in position. 3 unmarked cars, 8 officers, all hidden in the trees around the boathouse. The boathouse was a ruin, built in the 1960s, abandoned in the 90s. Wood siding rotted gray, roofs sagging, broken windows like empty eyes. I parked 20 feet away and walked to the entrance. The door hung on one hinge. Inside, the smell of mold and stagnant water. Moonlight came through the holes in the roof, casting silver bars across the floor. I stood in the center and waited. At 9:07, headlights swept across the trees. A car door opened and closed. Footsteps on gravel. Cynthia appeared in the doorway. She looked different, thinner, hair pulled back, wearing jeans and a dark jacket. Betty, Cynthia. She stepped inside, eyes adjusting to the dim light. You alone? Yes, you. We stood 10 feet apart. She looked at the folder in my hands. Is that it? She asked. Coffee. The originals are with the police. Let me see. I opened the folder and held up the will addendum. Louis signed this 6 weeks before he died. Notarized and witnessed. Everything goes to his issue. That means Hector. He signed it under duress. No, he signed it because he knew. Knew what? That you were planning to kill him. Her face didn't change. That's insane. He recorded a video. January 28. He talks about the pregnancy, the burner phone he found in your purse, the brake problems with his truck. He said if anything happened to him, to check the bank accounts and the truck. He was paranoid. Always thought people were out to get him. Carlos Medina confirmed you called him. Asked about brake line degradation, how long it would take for a small puncture to cause failure. I was concerned about Louis's safety. That's not a crime. You called from a burner phone, bought with cash. 2 days later, Louis took his truck to Carlos and found a slow leak in the brake line. Cynthia's jaw tightened. Coincidence? Then you collected the insurance money and wired most of it to an offshore account. For days after his funeral, that money was mine. Beneficiary designation. Not if the will supersedes it. Not if Hector has a legal claim. She took a step closer. Hector, you named him. Yes, he's not yours to name. You threw him in a lake. I made a mistake. I panicked. I'd just given birth. I wasn't thinking clearly. You drove 20 minutes to that lake. You put him in a suitcase. You zipped it up and threw it in the water and watched it sink. That's not panic. That's murder. Her eyes flashed. He was ruining everything. Louis's death was supposed to solve my problems. Then I found out I was pregnant, and suddenly, I had a witness, a living claim to the money. I couldn't let that happen. So you decided to kill him. I decided to start over. No baby, no complications. Just me and the money. But I saw you. She smiled, cold and thin. Yes, you did. And now you're the problem. I felt my pulse spike. My hand moved toward my pocket. Relax, Cynthia said. I'm not going to hurt you. I need you. You have temporary custody. You can sign him over to me. We'll tell the court I was suffering from postpartum depression, that I'm receiving treatment, that I'm ready to be a mother. You'll testify on my behalf. In exchange, I'll give you $50,000 from Hector's inheritance, from the insurance money, which is mine. No, Betty, be reasonable. You're 62 years old. You can't raise a baby. You're tired. You're broke. Take the money. Travel. Rest. Let me handle this. I'm not giving him to you. Her face hardened. Then, we have a problem. The police have all the evidence. The bank transfers, the phone records, the video. You're going to prison whether I cooperate or not. Not if the key witness has an accident. My hand closed around the panic button. You'd kill me too. I asked. If I have to, I've come this far. Why? For money. For freedom. Louis was a weight around my neck. His boring job. His boring mother. His plans for a boring family. I wanted more. I deserved more. The money was supposed to be my ticket out. And Hector was a complication. I took care of it. You put him in a suitcase with a key and a copy of the will. Why? She blinked. What? The key to the safe deposit box, taped under the lining, and the will addendum, in a plastic bag. Why leave evidence with him? Her face changed. Confusion, then understanding. I didn't put those there. Then who did? Louis. Her voice was barely a whisper. He must have. Before he died, he knew. He was protecting the baby. He used his own suitcase, put the proof inside. Maybe he thought if something happened, someone would find it. And you did. Yes. We stood in silence. Moonlight fell through the broken roof. I could hear the lake water lapping against the pilings. You'll never get away with this, I said. Even if you kill me tonight, the evidence is already with the police. The recording of your phone call, the wire transfer, the burner phone logs. They're building a case. Then I have nothing to lose. She reached into her jacket. I pressed the panic button. Cynthia pulled out a small revolver. Old, snub-nosed, the kind you hide in a purse. I'm sorry, Betty. I really am. Lavender blanket, I said, loud and clear. Louis had a lavender blanket when he was a baby. I kept it all these years. Cynthia frowned. What? Flashlights exploded through the windows. The door crashed open. Police. Drop the weapon. Cynthia spun toward the door. The gun went off. The sound was massive in the small space, ringing in my ears. Pain bloomed in my left shoulder. Hot and sharp, I stumbled backward. Officers rushed in. 3 of them hit Cynthia from different angles. The gun clattered across the floor. She went down hard, face against the rotted wood, arms wrenched behind her back. Detective Salazar was beside me. Betty, look at me. I'm okay, I said. But my voice sounded far away. You're hit. Medic. The paramedic was young, efficient. He cut my shirt, pressed gauze to the wound, through and through, missed the bone. You're lucky. I didn't feel lucky. I felt cold and shaky and old. They took Cynthia out in handcuffs. She didn't look at me. Her face was blank. Detective Salazar rode with me in the ambulance. We got everything. The confession, the threat, the weapon. She's done. Good. You were incredibly brave. I was terrified. That's what brave means. The bullet wound took 6 weeks to heal. Physical therapy for my shoulder. Pain medication that made me foggy. Father Anthony moved into the guest room to help with Hector. The charges came down like hammers. Attempted murder of a minor, reckless endangerment, insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit murder in the death of Louis Monroe. The trial was scheduled for September, but Cynthia's lawyer negotiated a plea deal. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing in exchange for testimony about Carlos Medina's involvement. Carlos had taken $800 to puncture the brake line on Louis's truck. He'd thought it was insurance fraud that Louis wanted to stage an accident and collect. When Louis died, Carlos got scared and said nothing. The phone records and the payment put him at the scene. He took a plea to 7 years for conspiracy and manslaughter. Cynthia got 35 years, no parole for 20. The court hearing was brief. Cynthia wore an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. She didn't look at me, didn't look at anyone. The judge read the sentence. The bailiff led her away. Detective Salazar walked me out. It's over. I know. The insurance money will be held in trust for Hector until he turns 18. You'll be the trustee. It'll cover his expenses, his education, everything. Thank you. You did this. You and Louis. He protected his son from beyond the grave. I thought about the suitcase, the key, the will, the video. Louis had known. He'd prepared. He'd fought even after death. He was a good man, I said. He was, and Hector will know that. 2 weeks later, I filed for permanent custody. Aileen Foster recommended approval. The judge signed the order in October. In November, I finalized the adoption. Hector Louis Monroe, legally mine. The kitchen clock reads 5:15 p.m. 4 years have passed. Hector is sitting at the table with crayons and construction paper, drawing wobbly circles. He says, "Our planets. Grandma, look. This one's Jupiter. That's beautiful, sweetheart. He's for now. Dark hair, dark eyes, Louis's smile. He asks 1,000 questions a day. Why is the sky blue? Where do squirrels sleep? Can we get a dog? I'm 66. My hip is worse. My shoulder aches when it rains. But I wake up every morning to Hector's voice calling Grandma. And it's enough. We've been to the lake twice. Once when he was 2, once last summer. Both times we stood at the water's edge, and I told him the story simplified, age-appropriate. I told him his daddy loved him, that his daddy made sure he was safe, even after he was gone. Hector doesn't remember the suitcase, the cold water, the hospital. His first memories are of this house, this kitchen, bedtime stories, and Saturday pancakes. But I remember every detail, the weight of the suitcase in my arms, the sound of the zipper, the blue tint of his skin. Father Anthony visits every Sunday. He's teaching Hector chess. Hector loses every game but never stops trying. Eloise Carter sends birthday cards. Detective Salazar emails every few months to check in. Aileen Foster retired last year but came to Hector's 4th birthday party. The money is in trust. I use it carefully: preschool tuition, doctor visits, a college fund. We don't need much. We have enough. Sometimes, late at night, I take out Louis's journal and read his entries, his hopes for his son, his fears about Cynthia, his love for me. If you're reading this, Mom, it means I was right to worry, but it also means my son survived. Take care of him. Tell him about me. Tell him he was wanted. I will, Louis. I do. Today is Hector's 4th birthday. We're having cake on the porch, chocolate with blue frosting. His favorite. Father Anthony is bringing ice cream. Detective Salazar sent a card with a $20 bill inside. The sun is setting over the trees. The air smells like pine and summer. Hector runs circles in the yard, arms spread like airplane wings. Grandma, watch me fly. I'm watching, baby. He's safe. He's loved. He's mine. The suitcase sits in my closet, empty now, cleaned and dried. I kept it. Evidence, yes, but also a reminder of what we survived, of what Louis did to save his son. One day, when Hector is older, I'll show it to him. I'll tell him the whole story, the lake, the key, the will, the way his father fought for him, but not today. Today we have cake and presents and laughter. Today we have life. And that's enough.